So roll call, Joyce is here, so.
Alderperson Hall?
Here.
Alderperson Hall? Here. Alderperson Morissette?
Here.
Should be here.
Yep. Number 2, minutes of the meeting of October 5th.
Move to approve?
On the fly.
Nice.
I read them.
Second.
All's in favor? Aye, all opposed? And we're gonna move right to number 7. Joyce, if you gotta take a minute. Dr. Nicolette is here from the school for superintendent.
Okay.
And number 7 agenda item is discussion, possible action on safety concerns on Oak Street behind the high school. Is that the correct one?
Yeah.
Item?
Yeah, okay, so I've gotten calls from, Jenny Coliani and from, let's see now. Doug Driscoll about, the issue, and one of the questions that Dr. Willett asked was that, what's different? So I went out and took pictures, which are in the packet, and the contours have all changed because we've got that raised practice field. And so the visibility around that raised practice field is down to nothing. I was driving just a few weeks ago, and there were people walking on the right side of the street, so with the traffic. And then I was trying to get around them. Somebody came around the corner from 12th, and it was pretty tight.
Are you
So
driving, taking these pictures?
I stopped and took the picture.
That was a joke. I didn't know.
Hope she wasn't using her cell phone.
Anyway,
So something needs to be done, and the citizens are requesting sidewalks along the school side.
Doctor, you wanna take the podium and
Yeah, you bet.
state your name and address for the record, please?
I will do that. One of each?
Yeah, one each. Nick Olette, I live at 736 Regal Ridge in the town of Hudson, but here representing the school district of Hudson. So what I'm passing around there is two different maps. One is our site plan, and one is a aerial shot from Google Maps of the north side of our building. The sidewalk area in question, so what I want to show you on our site plan is that we do have a safe passage through our site if people choose to take it, where we have walking paths and sidewalks that can get them from the corner of, I believe it's the northeast corner of our site all the way back down to Fillmore, or we can get them to Vine. I mean, we can get them to all those different locations. It might not be right on 12th Street, but there are safe passages that they just are choosing to walk in the street on 12th Street. So we have installed extra sidewalks and walking paths and things. And so one thing I would add is that all along our side of the property, there are no sidewalks to connect to. It would be a sidewalk from nowhere to nowhere. So unless the council is going to require the residents of 12th Street to add sidewalks to their houses or Fillmore, it would basically dead end to nowhere.
So when is the final grade gonna be done on that corner? I mean, I could see knocking down the bushes and you've got the silk fence up, but.
Yeah, well, and we can knock more of that down. So that was all, so although the grade has changed, you gotta remember, that was a very wooded area.
Yeah.
So it was wooded all the way to the road. So we cleared out a lot of the underbrush. And so the grades changed, but not all that drastically because we couldn't bring the grade up where those trees are. Because if we do, it kills those trees. So the grade's about where it was at the trees. But we should be finished with everything next summer. The outside, we have that large mound of dirt in the back that.
Are they done outside for now for the?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point where it's getting pretty tough to do much outside because it's so cold and things. So we wanted to get the last path asphalted. That's the one on the west side of our property, kind of that heads down towards Vine. It's been too cold to get it done, so we're gonna have to wait till next summer to get it done. But, so that would give people, actually, if they got onto our property in that northeast corner, they'd be able to safely walk all the way to Vine Street on a raised sidewalk and not have to worry about traffic.
Well, if you could, I'd like to have that knocked down, so you could open up the sight line.
And absolutely we can. It's just the DNR requires us to keep our silt fence up until the
Right.
grass holds, so we don't end up dumping dirt in the storm sewers and
No,
things.
no,
But
I
yeah,
get
absolutely.
that.
We'll get it all knocked down. And we kind of, it's a two-way fight, because the more stuff we knock down, the more neighbors get upset that we're knocking stuff down. And then when we leave it, then people get upset.
Well, they can't have
They
it
can't
both
see,
ways.
you know,
up there.
it's one of those things where, oh, you're cutting too many trees down, or you're cutting too many bushes, or, you know, we like that green kind of solid blind, so we didn't have to look at stuff, and then, but it does, I see what Joyce is saying, it does, you know, it can create some challenges. So we're more than happy to knock it down, just so if we, you know, if people come to you and say, hey, the district is knocking down areas we thought they were going to keep as thick vegetation, they just, you know, that's why it might be a little bit different than.
That might be a conversation Joyce has to have up there with those folks. You can't have it both ways, and I don't assume they wanna spend the money in putting sidewalks in. At least clear that sight line up. That'll help.
Because the sidewalk from the northeast corner to where Fillmore is would be about 1,800 feet, linear feet of sidewalk. And so when we price that out, just that sidewalk, if there's no extra excavation work, which we know would have to happen, it's gonna be over $50,000 for that sidewalk, plus, you know, whatever elevation changes and grading changes and things like that that may necessitate, because it also doesn't have curb and gutter. So if we put a sidewalk in, then we have to do something with the ditch and the drainage and everything else. And I mean, we could easily be into six figures there before too long. And so we just thought the best solution was to have people walk right through our site on our walking paths that we already have paved.
Joyce?
How do we get the word out that this is where they need to be walking so that they are avoiding Oak Street?
Well, that walking path on the northeast corner has been there long before I even came to the district,
I
so,
was there when I was there.
yeah, I mean, it's, and the reason
But
we
people
do
aren't
it,
using it.
Yeah.
They don't know about it.
you know, the kids use it because it's the shortest distance to
Sure.
the building, you know.
Oh, yeah. In
and,
fact, when it was closed off, they were still using it.
Yeah, yep, they cut through our construction fence twice. We had
Sorry.
yeah, we can get we can get some signage up and look at potentially some signage to get through there, and
Like two
I think that'd be just fine to do that. And then we have a new handicap accessible walk that connects down by Fillmore up onto the sites. There was never a walk there, it was just kind of kids cutting through the woods through what used to be the Freelander property, so we put in a handicap accessible walk up through that way to get to the west side of the building. So we can absolutely probably put a sign at the base of that one as well.
Yeah, I'm still concerned about this corner of 12th and Oak here where,
This one, I'm looking at.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you can't see around the corner. People are still gonna be walking along there. You know, what can we do to improve safety there?
Well, for one, the sight line's gotta be cleared, and he's willing to do that.
Yeah,
And I think we just have to
That'll help.
monitor it. I mean,
Yeah.
putting, like he said, putting sidewalks in,
yeah, I
you
understand that. But this is the Public Safety Committee. This
are you
is,
suggesting the school district look at putting a sidewalk there?
I'm not sure what to do here. That's why I'm asking. You know, what can we do? What are our options for making this corner more safe?
Yep.
Randy, I got a question. So when you're looking at this picture here,
Yep.
when you're talking about the sight line, is it the difference between seeing that brown house and not? Do you see what I'm talking about in that picture?
Which one you got?
Okay,
Second
the
one.
second picture.
Yeah. I don't know if is that the issue? It's not open enough to see around the corner?
Well, yeah, I mean, if there's somebody that's walking, on the other side of, that brick, wall, you can't see that there's anybody over there.
So I'm just wondering if you lose that brush, you almost have a clear line of sight to that brown house, which is kind of covered up right now.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
Chief, do you have any suggestions, or what are your thoughts? I know you're kind of
Well, and the thing is, and I think the superintendent makes a good point, it's gonna cost a lot of money to put sidewalks in on that one side, and it's going nowhere. It doesn't
Right.
really, help any, and I don't know, how much foot traffic do we have on Oak Street during the day, and I guess would be the next question I'd be asking. And if the school district's is going to allow, traffic on their site to go through, I think that would be the best option, because it looks like you can get over to Vine Street if you wanted to go that direction. So I think just putting up some signs saying, use the school sidewalk system or something similar to that, just something so they can know where to go, would be the best option, and it would be cheaper for everybody. Because I know that we got that email from the one mother that pushes her kids in a stroller and would like to get down to the parks. Well, I think this would probably be a good option.
Okay, I'd like to, have this put back on the agenda next spring after the, things have been cleaned up. So when do you think things will be done?
We can, we'd like to not take that silt fence out until that grass sets, so, I mean, that's usually probably April or something
Okay.
like that, April, May, and then, I mean, we can take it out, it's just, they tend to get a little bit upset with us if you start to get a big rain and it washes out, so, but we can go and clear everything out of there. We could probably clear everything out of there in the next week or so. Well, it's Thanksgiving, maybe in the next 2 weeks, other than that silt fence, and get as much of that brush.
Nick, let's do that. Let's see, if you don't mind having them do that.
Yeah, we can-
That-
yeah,
That would
we
be
can
a
do that.
start, and then we'll monitor next April or May. Signs would help, directions for that Vine Street walk, and let's go from there before we
Okay.
start knee-jerk reacting before the project's even done. No, and I'm
Yeah,
not, you know what I
no.
mean? Not an insult, but,
No, I understand that. I'm just concerned about the safety of this corner.
Sure.
Meanwhile, there's a problem here.
And the one thing I would note is we've stayed out of the right of way. I mean, so all of our stuff is held back, the required city limits and right of way and all of those different components. And so, and if there was a sidewalk, it looks to me, according to Google Maps, it'd make the most sense to actually have it on the north side of the street, because that's where there already is an existing sidewalk over on the northeast corner of Oak. It would tie it together, versus, move it on to the south side of the street where they'd have to cross the street just to continue to use the sidewalk, that way. So we'll work on getting that cleared up, and I'll let you know when it's done. I'll send Joyce an email, let her know when it's done. So if people have questions, then I can come back and we can have another conversation in the spring.
okay?
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Fifth grade camp. No?
Oh, I'm past that age. Sir, were you here for a particular item?
No, I'm just here, just if we have any discussion on EP Rock Elementary foot race.
Okay, we'll be getting to that one. Do you want to, let's just take it in now. Number 8, discussion possible action on EP Rock Elementary Foot Race on May 5th, 9 AM to 10:30 AM.
And as you can see, the gentleman is here from the EP Rock Parent Group. This is the second year of their race. They did make a minor change to the start of it. We didn't have any issues with it last year, never heard any complaints or anything. It actually has worked out pretty well, so my recommendation would be to approve it again this year, or for May 5th of 2018.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. We'll recommend a council approval on Monday is our next meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Back up to number 3, discussion possible action to restrict parking on Fillmore Street between 12th Street and 11th Street.
This was brought up, we had been talking about the problems with that intersection at Fillmore and Oak and students parking there. It's been eliminated now, obviously, because it's past the 15th, the kids aren't parking there anymore. But my recommendation would be, let's make that block between 11th and 12th Street, just no parking on both sides. And that should eliminate the problem. We'll just do it year-round and be done with it. Nobody really parks there other than the kids anyway, so.
Yeah, and if you want, we can revisit this, after all the construction is done and all of the traffic patterns have been set, but I don't think,
Well, I think
Seems to be a good-
what's gonna end up happening is the school district's gonna have more parking spaces here
yes,
by the end of next summer, so the kids,
so it shouldn't be a
there
problem.
there shouldn't be a problem there anymore, so.
Okay. I'll move to approve the no parking on Fillmore Street.
Second.
Any further discussion? Will we review this then after the school project?
Do you think we should, or should we just leave it?
Well, we can leave it. Maybe we'll revisit it if anybody remembers.
If anybody requests it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Number 4, discuss some possible action on relocating the fire station of Ward Avenue property. Chief St. Martin?
Yes, the Public Safety Committee requested that I look into, I think under the direction of the council, to look into public safety building. So the site that has been purchased by the city is the one site that I think everyone recommends. And so that's the Ward Avenue site. So I sat down with Chief Lissick and myself. We tried to figure out what's the best fit for EMS and fire. After much discussion, we decided that them utilizing the west building, existing building, removing the east building, and then building a fire station on the rest of that existing parcel would fit. After we talked about that, I met with the economic development director several times to see if that would fit within the city's, zoning comprehensive plan and the fit for that. He thought it's a good fit. We went over it. Went back, we talked to Five Bugles a little bit, what would be the next logical step for us to take in doing this, and there's a couple options that they're gonna probably just present or give you the options. So, in saying that, it pretty much comes down to, my recommendation is to build our recommendation is to build a new fire station, keep the existing ward building. EMS can use it as they see fit for their operation. We would long-term probably set up the new station for if we needed to add on, but I think that the best fit right now is to continue that. One other possibility is there's a 40 by 80 building that will be removed. Kind of thinking out a little bit, if there's a way we could possibly relocate that to somewhere else within the district, probably to the northern portion, and maybe eventually utilize the engine or something there to cover that part of the district. We've talked to different people, and it's just in the kind of talking phase right now.
Sure.
But it would be able to repurpose that building and also cover some of our other district. So there's a lot more talk and thinking about that one, but it's something to keep in the back of our mind that, being we have the building and it needs to be removed. So I guess that's kind of it in a nutshell. If you have any questions for me, otherwise the gentlemen from Five Bugles are here to just kind of go over, they did our needs assessment study and what the next couple logical steps would be. There's a couple choices, and then if you have any questions for them. So what I'm requesting is up to $7,500 for them to do a site assessment and then a rendering, so you'd actually have like a rough blueprint of what it would look like, and then we'd be able to kind of get a rough cost of what the building would be, and then make the council would kind of make the next step, the next decision moving forward on that. We did have a meeting this morning with the advisory board and all of our partners. They did approve spending up to the $7,500, which would come out of our contingency fund right now. I think we'll be under budget to cover it in this year's budget, but we'll guarantee it with the contingency fund. If we're under budget at the end of the year, we'll replenish that contingency fund within our budget, so it's not affecting any of the other budgets. And like I said, the advisory board approved that spending. So we have Jim Schmidt and Michael Clark from Five Bugles.
If you guys come to the podium and
So, you didn't point out which one of us which?
Yeah.
Mike Clark?
We have 5 copies. Who you,
I don't need one.
Marty's retiring, he probably doesn't.
I don't need, I'm,
27 days.
Fire related, so the police don't care?
the police cares, just,
He has a beautiful
I
office
care a little bit
overlooking the
less.
river right now.
He doesn't need to be involved now, I get it. All right.
Thank you.
So,
oh.
yeah, the chief,
Thank you.
the chief started talking to me about this, about a week ago, and he was chasing around other information all at the same time. So I created this, and then it's probably, the first sheet might be outdated by now, but it covers kind of where we've been, so that I can talk to you about where you're going. That first study that we did had some limited goals to it. So last year we looked at the existing building, we looked at its condition, we looked at how well, mostly it was to look at how well it serves the fire department, which is not very well. It's too small, it's got columns in the wrong places, drains in the wrong places, there's some challenges with it. We also looked at well, if somebody said you had to leave the station there, what else would you need and how would you add it on? So we did that work, mostly to prove that it was a fail. I think we knew going in that it was going to be a challenge, but it requires taking over a lot of the parking that's back there in order to fit it all on. Those kinds of things are all in that previous report, all right? What that previous report did not do was look at a new fire station building on any specific sites. We did take a generic station of about the right size and stick it on a piece of property up at Carmichael and Vine, just to give everybody some idea of how big that thing would be, but we didn't do any specific planning for any specific sites. We did the station location piece that talked about response times and all that stuff. That the results of that said that the area around Carmichael and Vine was, you know, ideal, but nothing in this world is ideal. It said that the Ward site was a really good alternative. So following along with that recommendation, which is where you guys are going, just perfectly, it's an acceptable site, but those decisions hadn't been made, so we didn't do any planning on those, nor was it ever part of the initial proposal for us to do that. So now you've moved forward, now we have a potential site to put it on. It makes a lot of sense. You could move forward. Let me start. There are two choices for moving forward from that. So if the city said that's where we want to put it, we want to build this thing, we're committed, you could go all the way to the bottom of that page, you could put out an RFP, you could hire an architect, and you could do that. The challenge with that step is that you're going to be standing in front of the city council saying, we want to build a fire station, and you're going to wave your arms around because there's no real data, there's no pictures, no plans, there's nothing you can show the city council or the people of the community why you're doing this. That's what the next step would do. So if you look at that middle step that says study the Ward site, that's what we're really recommending you do. We're going to take a look at it. If you flip through the rest of those sheets that I passed out, those are examples of another project that we're currently in the middle of doing. That's what we're talking about doing for you folks. We would take your program that we already did in the last phase. We would work with the chief. We would come up with a building plan that fits on the site. We would create a diagram of how it fit on the site. We would talk to the EMS a little bit and make sure we're, you know, giving everybody enough elbow room so they can stay on the site. We would, in the end, you would end up with the kinds of floor plans you see in that packet. You would end up with that kind of site plan that you see in that packet. We would use all of the modeling software we have in the office to generate the sample of the kind of imagery you might expect out of the building. And then we would put a cost estimate on all that. That step is a much smaller step than the first one I talked about, where you try to go out for full bids. It can be done a whole lot cheaper. It's the $7,500 that the chief is talking about, but it gives you the ability to give the city council and the community kind of pictures, diagrams. It shows them what they're buying versus standing up there and waving your hands around a lot. So that's what we're recommending, and that's what we've talked to the chief about, is a nice small step of a $7,500 study, get planning done to give you guys the things you need to sell it to the city council.
Questions?
Do you think you've taken a look at Ward Avenue, that initial study. I mean, do you feel that there's enough space for a fire station and keeping the existing building?
Yes.
For turnaround and all that?
Yes, I think so. We want to look at it and make sure that overlap doesn't create grief. We want a drive-through station, so it only has one street going in front of it. Somehow we have to get around behind there. The trucks have really big turning radiuses, so we want to make sure that the depth is good, that we can still get off the road, get around behind the station, still get the trucks out quickly and easily, but still have setback from the curb so they can pull the trucks out. There's a lot of little things that could, sneak in and bite you, but it really does look like it works. You would not have to do the step we're doing, other than the fact that you find yourself standing there in front of the city council trying to sell them on something that, you don't
I
have.
just wanted to make sure that, we're spending the $7,500 to do the study and then, oops, there's not enough space.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, we've looked at the depth. The depth is there,
Got
the
it.
length seems to be there.
It's just getting down to that detail then.
Right, it's can you put all the parts in the right places on that site with the fire trucks being able to get out right, the trucks being able to get around, the EMS ambulances being able to get out and do their thing and not have all of that conflict in some strange place or something.
And one of the reasons that I recommend this is, obviously we went to the next step and just went ahead with it. Then if something unforeseen came up, you are stuck and it's gonna happen, it's just a matter of how much it's gonna cost. This flushes out and does a vetting process. We've done a preliminary process of that, or we wouldn't be at this stage if we didn't think it would work. But this gets to the next phase, and what they're able to do is really give us a pretty comprehensive idea of what it would cost. So then if the council decides to move forward and let the bids, that benchmark of prices should
Right,
be
and that,
fairly consistent. Now, the add-ons, of course, as you know, but I mean, we should have a ballpark so that we know roughly what it'll cost in a little more specific, and a picture of what you're getting, and so that's kind of why the next step is, I think it's a good investment, just so we can put a pen to paper and make sure, and then I think it would give everyone else a little more, be a little more comfortable making the decision when you see that and make sure it does fit there.
What size community is Cloquet?
15,000, I believe.
And may I ask, but how much is this? How much are they investing?
You gotta be careful with that. They have some stuff that you guys don't have. They have 2 semi-trailers of training gear that they have bays for in that diagram. They actually have 3 bays, 2 for the semi-trailers and 1 for the semis that pull them. So
This is like a Taj Mahal.
you know, that is a very nice looking station, in my opinion. I designed it, but just being fair here. But it is nothing but brick and metal panels. And you don't get, those are good 50-year materials, and you don't get much more economical than that when you start talking about good 50-year. It's how you use them that makes it a very nice looking facility. I brought a couple of our brochures that
Give me a ballpark.
if you wanted, I could show you some really nice looking ones. The cost of that is currently sitting at, and you'll have to, excuse me, this is total project cost. So this is all the FF&E and all of the everything, all in is 10.5 million. The fees and all that stuff, but I'm trying to say that that's a much bigger station than what you folks need.
Okay.
I can give you another example, a 26,000 square foot station working for another community and volunteer department. The price range on that is anywhere from 5.8 to about 6.2
So now
price range.
that's a heck of a lot more palatable than the 10.5.
Correct. That I keep saying that's a much bigger. That's 43,000 square feet of space in that station the Cloquet one. I only put it in there to show you what the kind of this kind of product you'll get from for your $7,500.
Okay.
Please don't go thinking that we're after that much, because it's a big station.
I haven't thought that. Joyce, any questions or?
Yeah, how long will this study take?
If everything goes smoothly, I don't know why we couldn't finish it by the 1st of January. I should say the first week of January. I think the 1st is like a weird day. It's a Saturday or something.
Yeah, the sooner the better.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah. Any other questions?
No. I'll move to approve. You need a motion to spend the
But up to,
7,500, right?
yeah.
I guess I'll move to approve that you allocate 7,500 for the initial drawings and site placement in order to pursue RFP with 5 pupils. Is that?
Second?
Any further discussion? Anything else you want to add, Chief?
Well, just thank them for their work, and it's, part of the reason that they can do it in an efficient time frame is we did that initial, so the money we spent last year, and we have the GIS, which obviously everybody can use, the study they did, but the needs assessment that is done already is part of the reason that it's 75 seems like a lot, but it's actually very reasonable in the fact that their input that stuff already, so it's gonna make it much easier to put the two together.
Right.
So.
All right, all in favor? All opposed? We'll recommend on Monday to bring this to council. You might want to have one or the other there as well. Answer any questions of the full council, if possible.
This coming Monday?
Yes. Yeah.
We'll do that.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Number 5, discussion possible action on ordinance, on the use of drones in the city of Hudson.
This is the ordinance and the format that Kathy put it in. It's pretty self-explanatory, it's a pretty simple ordinance. It'll be easy to enforce, I would think. It's relatively straightforward.
Any questions? Have you all had a chance to kind of read through it? I think it answers the problem. I guess we'll get more feedback from Mr. McCormick on Monday, and I guess we can go from there. Bill, you look like you're conjuring.
Sorry, I'm just came back from vacation, you know.
We don't want to hear about it.
I know.
All right, I'll make the motion to move this forward to the city council.
And I will second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. We'll recommend that. Number 6, discussion, possible action to add streetlights on Fillmore Street between 12th Street and 11th Street. Why did this come here and not Public Works?
Because all of us all asked to be, have it on the
You're
agenda.
gonna coin it under safety issue? Is that what
It's a safety issue, yes. The gentleman who called me said that he had tripped because it was dark. He was walking earlier in the morning, and you know, with the time change now, it's dark at that hour. You know, the road between, so Fillmore between 11th and 12th is in really rough shape. So a lot of rough pavement there, and then no lighting in between, you know. So there's a street light at 11th and a street light at 12th.
So Joyce, I'm gonna play devil's advocate with you. So if everybody trips, falls, does something in the city of Hudson, we're gonna react by putting up a $10,000 to $15,000 streetlight? I don't know the cost, I'm just
No.
bald.
Let me find the information.
But
seen out from
You understand my point?
I know what you're saying, and the cost is, let's see, Tom gave me a cost on this.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not finding it, because it was just a monthly fee for it. Anyway, oh, here it is. From Brian Mello, it's loading, there we go. There would be no cost for XL to install this light, because there's already a pole there. Looks like the light to the west is a 65 watt LED. Assume this is what you want. The monthly cost I have is $12 per month.
Okay. Times that by how many people we got in the city of Hudson?
Okay, so asking for a street light. Well, you've got a steep pitch. You've got a rough surface, and this is really rough. There are no sidewalks on either side. The curb is in horrible shape. I mean, that road needs to be repaired, there's no question about
Okay,
that.
so that is our responsibility, but at what point do we interject? Where's the self-responsibility? You know, if everybody trips and then they have
Well,
to
he
come
said that he did
here.
have a flashlight with him, but he still ended up having problems with this spot. So, have you looked at this?
Yeah, I've been up and down that
Okay.
street.
Mm-hmm.
What if something happens over Bill's,
Mhm.
same area, same type of thing? I mean, when does it stop? When we start putting signs up and lights up for everybody that has, people have to take self-responsibility. If the
Oh, I-
road is ours, that's our issue.
Okay. Well, then when are we gonna get this road fixed?
Again, that's why I'm saying it's a public works
Mhm.
issue. If the road is in that bad of disrepair, then we should recommend to them that they put that on their next
Okay,
road.
then let's do that. I've been
Issue.
asking for it.
So, and this committee can send that back to them, say, we highly and strongly, whatever adjective you wanna use, or what, a noun, or whatever it is.
Would be an adverb.
You know, however you wanna strongly word it for them to put Fillmore Street on a resurface project. But I'm really concerned that this committee lately has been putting a lot of signs up and kinda knee-jerk reacting to every little thing that's happening around the city, and it's gonna get expensive if we continue to go down that road, and we don't wanna do that.
I understand that, but I think that there are some areas where we do have to do something, and I think this was one area where it would be good, but let's get to agitating for getting that road fixed then.
I mean, if you think it's strongly enough that you wanna put a light up there and it's not gonna cost us anything but $12 a month, that's fine, but I want you to be very aware of what kind of Pandora's box you're opening.
No, I understand, it's the same thing as sidewalks, we put in one, then everybody wants one,
Mhm.
and,
Because when we switched out to the LED lights, we had numerous calls to put more lights in because they weren't spilling enough like the old ones.
yeah.
We didn't do that,
Mhm.
and we let it happen, and it's working now. It's an adjustment in human behavior. So, what's your pleasure, Bill? You have thoughts? And
Currently, there is no light on that street,
There's a light at 12th, there's a light at 11th,
but nothing mid-block.
nothing in between. You've got a steep pitch, and you've got a really rough surface.
But every block has lights, and no one has them in the middle.
Right.
So why would we start now?
Because of the concerns about safety.
Okay, then every block's gotta get another light on in the city of Hudson.
Well, not every block is at such a steep pitch.
Boy, you're not selling this one to me, but I would support you suggesting we redo Fillmore, but I'm not gonna support a light. I just think we're going down a different road, and I don't wanna be a part of that. People have to take responsibility, and I'm not pointing fingers at the person who tripped or fall, but those things happen.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. What are your thoughts, Bill? You've been advocating for safety in your neighborhood.
Right. I like the idea of trying to find out when this is going to, I mean, it all boils down to it's a rough road,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it's like,
That's a big part of it.
so I would suggest that's the first route that we take is, okay, when is this on the docket to do it? And if it's 2, 3, 4 years from now, can we get that sooner? And then revisit it. So kind of like what we did with the high school, you know, with the sidewalk is, hey, let's do this, let's see how that is, review it at that point.
Okay.
That's kind of where my head's at. Kind of similar to you, but,
And I know you don't, I know you understand what I'm saying,
Yeah, I do. I'm just,
but we're not, you're fighting your district, but we have to look at it as a whole, and
no, I understand that. You know,
what's your pleasure, Joyce?
I'd like a light to be installed there.
You can certainly
I'm
put it
gonna
on the
make a
motion,
I'm
yeah.
gonna make the motion to install a light there. Cause we don't know, I mean, it's only, you know, I mean, at $12 a month, $144 a year to put safety in that spot until we can, at least until we can get that road fixed. I think that that's a worthwhile investment. So I'll make the motion.
Okay. Is that all your motion is gonna say? Is it gonna do anything else about the road, or is that gonna be
Alright.
something separate, or,
Let's do a separate motion for repairing the road.
okay?
So
So
let's
do the
just
first one.
handle this one first.
Is there a second for the,
Okay, I guess that takes care of that. Come on, Bill. I know Brandy's not going to.
well, I mean, to Randy's point, it does open up a Pandora's box.
Mhm.
So, hey, I got a light in the middle of the street. So what's to stop neighbors 2, 3, 4 blocks down the street? Hey, they got that.
Okay,
Now I want that. And then it becomes a larger cost and a bigger question.
okay. Are the two of you gonna support getting that street fixed?
Absolutely.
Okay,
if it's
then I will
something,
make the motion that we advocate strongly that Fillmore gets repaired between 11th and 12th.
okay,
Would it be even better to have that as a specific time frame?
For
to
next-
see if they
next
can
summer.
look at it
Next
in
summer.
2018. Yeah,
For next summer. Mhm.
just
I
suggesting.
asked for it last year for this summer.
Okay,
Second, sorry.
did you get that? Any further discussion? I would certainly, if you feel strongly enough about light, bring it up at the council meeting.
Mhm. Okay.
But for the record, it'll be stated as it is for the folks to read
Mhm.
what we were talking about, so.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. Number 9, discussion, possible action, crosswalk safety on Hanley Road between Carmichael Road and Foxglove. Bill, I believe, again?
This is the one you wanted to bring back last meeting about the,
Oh, Aldi's, yeah.
and
Yes.
the only crosswalk that's between Carmichael and near Aldi's is by Foxglove. So we put that whole on there just in case you wanted to talk about that whole section.
Let's put it on for the next meeting, so I'm more prepared for that one. I didn't follow up with that. Something needs to be up there,
Okay.
because it's so wide, and there's that daycare there, and a lot of people are going to Aldi's from the,
It's atrocious to get out of all these, just saying.
it is. Put that on the next meeting, if you will, unless you guys have any comments for
Do you
that.
want it worded differently then for the next meeting, or we're talking crosswalks, or we're talking something else?
We're talking crosswalks, I think,
Okay,
for starters.
okay.
EMS, Fire Department, Police Department updates. Number 10, EMS, Brandon.
The ad hoc committee is up and running. They've been having regular meetings. They're gonna be doing 2 a month.
I've been watching.
They have a survey they put together of this for the staff. That's gone out. It'll close next week. We'll have the results hopefully by the next meeting to kind of go through some of those.
You got 100% participation, or do you know?
I checked today and we're just over 50%
Okay,
right now. So it's looking pretty good there.
good.
The stove and refrigerator stuff for the kitchen have been taken care of downstairs, and we currently have a full-time vacancy we're looking to fill still.
Paramedic?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's all I have for you.
Joyce, do you have anything to add to the ad hoc?
Well, we're putting together work groups to study different aspects. We're not sure exactly what kind of work groups we're going to need. We're looking at the survey to help us to determine that. We've already got a survey work group to analyze the survey results, summarize them, and give that information to the committee. We also have a finance work group to start looking at financial aspects. So as things move along, we will be forming different work groups or changing the aspects of each of the work groups to what's needed at the time. Our next meeting is November 29th at 6:30 here in the council chambers. We, as a committee, will be attending the staff meeting on the 28th so that we can introduce ourselves to the staff so they know who we are and can feel that they can approach us. And we're encouraging community involvement and employee involvement as much as we can. And we've also gotten some of the employees involved as advisors to the ad hoc committee so that they've got formal representation to the ad hoc committee.
Hopefully you're keeping it as narrow as possible so you don't prolong the study, and making sure we're identifying the absolute solutions that we're trying to find
Oh, yeah.
and
but-
not muddy it, you know?
No, but we're starting with just a survey of the employees, and the survey is broad so that we can get as
Absolutely.
much information as possible, and that will help us to narrow down where we're gonna be going.
Okay. Any questions?
What time is that meeting at?
The meeting's at 6:30,
Oh, 6:30.
They're televised,
and they're televised, yes.
yeah. It's kinda nice to watch it at home.
In your PJs?
Nobody asks you questions either.
It's strange though,
It-
not knowing who's watching the meeting or who's going to be watching the meeting on YouTube, and wondering just, how much participation we really have, because there's no way of knowing unless somebody
Right.
happens to say, yes, I saw that.
Are you having good, consistent turnout with the appointees?
Yes.
Good.
Mhm.
Chief, I think we just did yours, but go ahead if you have any more.
For the record, I am a loyal YouTube watcher of the Joyce, so.
We have a big audience of 10.
Obviously, we talked about the station, but a couple other things, we're also going through the hiring process. We're meeting with the Police and Fire Commission to start the process probably after the holidays. So we have a test, so get the word out, everyone's interested, to be after the first of the year, we'll go through the process. Kind of an update on the boat. We ended up not purchasing the boat. We met with the fire company, and they were gonna go in partners with us. After some further investigation, we talked to their mechanics. There's a couple little things. That being said, the fire company is pursuing, we're getting different bids on other ones, and they're looking at maybe upping their financial commitment possibly into the purchase of a boat. So we didn't buy that one. It didn't work out quite right, but they still have a great interest in pursuing to get a boat and make sure it's the right boat for us. So that's a little bit on the back burner, but I think it makes sure we get the right thing. So our ladder, they retested it yesterday. It came back that the main issue, the hardness issue, looks like it's okay. I've been going back and forth with the testing company and the manufacturer. I'm hoping within a week or so to get that back on the road. So that's good news. Really good news is we had our ISO study done last, I believe, June, and we just got the reports back, and we were able to increase our ratings. So we lowered our ratings for the city from a 4 to a 3, and for the townships from a 6 to a 5. So hopefully that'll help lower insurance premiums. So we moved up a class. So I just want to thank Jim Fry and the water department for their part, and Karen and Mike Pruk and our staff for getting all the stuff together, because it was quite a bit to get everything together. And so I guess I'm really happy to announce that. So hopefully we'll see a little bit of a deduction or reduction in our insurance premiums. So
Very nice job, thank you.
and that's it.
All right. Chief?
We just had graduation on Tuesday of our Falls Police Academy class. We had 14 graduates. We had another city council member that went through it, so
Who's
I
that?
think Jim went
Oh,
through it. Jim
Did you
Weber.
tase him?
Huh?
Did you tase him?
He would not get tased. Him and Marion went through it together, so.
Okay.
I don't blame him.
Neither one of them wanted to get tased. But we did show him your tasing.
Good,
You
no,
were
not
just trying to
me.
get them to go, no, they wouldn't go.
There's a picture of mine that seems to pop up every so often too.
Oh, yeah, so people still like watching my Facebook post on that one.
Bill, you're
It's
next.
very fun. They enjoyed a lot of that. So we had 14 that graduated. All indications is that after I retire, it's still gonna continue on, so that'll be a good program. Our K-9 is currently at training to get a certification on narcotics detection, and he'll be graduating, should be finishing up Wednesday of next week, so he'll be back on the street. We're still down 3 bodies, but hopefully we'll be getting some of those back here relatively soon. We've recently just taken some equipment from the 1033 program. Some of our officers have been involved in getting some of that equipment for us. We've gotten some new gas mask filters for our gas masks. We were able to get some night vision equipment, so that'll help us out a lot, doing some night surveillance and so forth. So kind of excited about that. But otherwise, that's about it.
Any questions for any of the chiefs? Okay, informational items. Anything?
Just one quick update. The village, we had a fire Sunday evening. I don't know if you saw in the paper at all.
Yeah.
Kind of kudos to firefighter Peruka, who just happened to be going on another call for St. Joe Township, drove by, saw the fire, was able to get the occupants out. There's smoke in there, quite a bit of smoke, and no operating smoke detector. So one is make sure everyone check your smoke detectors, have them, but also it worked out well for these people, and then they're fine. And Mike was able to call fire department. They kept the fire mainly to the garage, which is a really nice job. They, so they did it worked out perfect in this case. But unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way. But again, thanks to Mike and then the rest of the fire department, they just did a great job in making the stop and keeping it. It just basically talks. I think Brandon was actually one of the first ones in on the nozzle, so. It made him feel good, be part of the fire department,
Proby.
So,
But I think he can maybe even touch on it a little bit. It was one of those, not everything goes well from start to finish. That was one where the training and the professionalism, everything worked out perfectly, so.
Yeah, everything was in place, it just, good flow.
So I guess just touch on that, so.
Good.
So check your smoke detectors always.
Very nice. You change your smoke detectors, change your carbon
Carburetors?
monoxide batteries as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially this time of season, I think is if carbon monoxide detectors are over 10 years for sure,
Yeah.
just replace the whole, and because we get this time of year, a lot of false readings, and so just get rid of the whole detector and put a new one in.
Cool.
That's it, thanks.
Very good safety announcement. Any other things for future agendas? Bill, Joyce,
Not at this time.
Chiefs? All right,
Move to adjourn?
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? We are
Well,
adjourned.
you guys
Thank
are
you,
fast on
everybody.
Yeah.